welcome to Whispers of Ink. I'm Machado de Assis, and now, I will read one of my stories.
Let's start with the book 5 Women, which is part of my novels collection. Chapter 1. This is a group of 5 women. Each one different from the others, coming from different places, but gathered together here like photos in an album. I drew them quickly, just as they appeared to me, without trying to put one before another or choose carefully. Each woman is a separate sketch, but all can be read easily between smoking a cigar and drinking a coffee. Marcelina was delicate, like a flower stem. People said that life itself left her with every word she spoke through her soft pink lips. Her eyes were slow and dreamy, like the last light of sunset. Her face looked more angelic than feminine, always turned slightly upward, as if looking for heaven. She was 15 years old, like Juliet. And like Ophelia, it seemed that she was born to gather flowers, both from the earth and from death. Of all the sisters there were 5, Marcelina was the only one nature had given so little strength. The others seemed full of life. They were tall and strong, with bright, fiery eyes. They called her Alphanim. Nobody ever invited her to dance at a ball or go on long walks. Poor girl would feel weak after just one waltz, or even after walking 50 steps. Still, she was the favorite of her parents. In her fragility lay the reason for their love. A secret feeling told the older couple that she wouldn't live very long. As if trying to give her extra love before time ran out, they loved her more than the other daughters. But they still loved the others too, not completely forgotten in their hearts. Marcelina played piano beautifully. It was her favorite hobby. She had a deep sense of music, better than most. She knew the great composers, Mozart, Weber, Beethoven, Palestrina. When she sat at the piano to play the works of her favorites, nothing in the world could pull her away. Marcelina had reached the age when a woman's heart starts asking quiet questions. But no one had ever seen her feel love, not really. Maybe it wasn't time yet. Still, everyone who saw her believed she couldn't love anyone on earth. She seemed too much like an angel from heaven. A 20-year-old poet, still full of dreams and untouched by life, would have seen in her the purest dream of his heart. But there was no such poet around. The young men who visited her home preferred the silly, never-ending chatter of her sisters over Marcelina's fragile beauty and shy modesty. The oldest sister had a boyfriend. The others knew about it and helped however they could. From that romance to marriage took little time, just 1 month. The wedding was set for June. Her boyfriend was a handsome guy, 26 years old, tall, with dark skin, black eyes, and black hair. His name was Giulio. The day after the engagement was announced, Marcelina didn't get out of bed. It was just a light fever, but it lasted 2 days until an old doctor, a friend of her father's, finally made her better. Even so, Marcelina's mother cried bitterly and didn't sleep for hours. There had been no real danger during her daughter's illness, but just the fact that she got sick was enough to make the poor mother lose her mind. When she saw Marcelina standing again, she dropped to her knees and cried over the feet of a statue of the Virgin Mary, the saint she loved most. Meanwhile, the wedding plans kept moving forward. It would happen in 15 days. Giulio was shining with joy and never missed a chance to tell everyone how happy he was. Marcelina listened with sadness. She said a few polite words to him and then changed the subject. It hurt her too much to talk about it. No one noticed, except the doctor. One day, as she sat at the piano, he looked at her sadly and said, "Child, this is hurting you." That? Swallow your feelings, forget an impossible dream, and don't waste away over a hopeless emotion. Marcelina stared at the piano keys and rose to her feet, crying. The doctor left more troubled than before. "She's dead," he murmured as he walked down the stairs. The wedding day had arrived. There was joy in the house, even for Marcelina, who covered her sister with kisses. To everyone else, it looked like natural sisterly love showing itself on such a happy day. But someone more observant would have seen the sadness hidden behind those overly passionate displays. This is not a novel, nor a short story, nor even an episode. I won't therefore describe every single event day by day. A month passed after Giulio married Marcelina's sister. It was the night of the celebration dinner at Giulio's house. Marcelina went unwillingly, but she felt she had no choice. Pretending to be sick would ruin the party, and the good girl didn't want that. So she went. But who can control what the future holds? 2 hours after arriving at her sister's house, Marcelina suddenly felt dizzy. They carried her to a sofa, but when she came to, she knew something was wrong. She was taken home immediately, with the whole family following closely. The dinner never happened. A new fever took hold of her body. The doctor, who understood the true cause of her illness, tried to heal both her body and heart at once. But the medicine for her body did little, because her heart was the sicker part. Every time he gave something for her health, he gave twice as much for her soul. His remedies were gentle advice, kind words, and almost brotherly affection. Marcelina responded to everything with a sad smile that was all she could offer. When the old doctor told her, "Child, this love is impossible," she replied softly, "What love?" "The one you feel for your brother-in-law." "You're dreaming, doctor. I don't love anyone. It's useless to hide." One day, when she kept denying it, the doctor smiled and jokingly threatened to tell her mother everything. Marcelina turned even paler than before. "No," she whispered. "Please don't say anything." "Then it's true." She couldn't bring herself to answer out loud. Instead, she gave a small nod. "Don't you see that it's impossible?" the doctor asked. "I know." "Then why think about it?" "I don't think about it." "You do. That's exactly why you're so sick." "Don't believe that, doctor. I'm ill because God wills it. Maybe it'll get better, maybe not. It doesn't matter to me. Only God decides these things." "But what about your mother?" "She'll be with me when I die." The doctor looked away, turning his face toward a half-open window. This conversation happened many times, always ending the same way. Marcelina kept getting weaker and weaker. After a few days, the doctor finally admitted that there was no way to save her. The family was heartbroken by the news. Giulio visited Marcelina often, always bringing his wife with him. During those visits, Marcelina felt as though she had risen into a world of joy and peace. Just hearing Giulio's voice gave her strength. Her cheeks would regain some color, and her eyes would shine with a kind of holy light. But after they left, she would return to her usual sadness. More than once, the doctor thought about telling the family the real reason for Marcelina's illness. But what good would it do? There was no cure, and the poor girl would still feel the same. Her mother, deeply upset by the situation, tried every possible way to help her daughter. She even suggested moving to a different city, hoping a change of scenery might help. But Marcelina rarely stopped having fever. One Sunday in July, Marcelina said she wanted to speak privately with the doctor. Everyone left them alone. "What is it you want to tell me?" he asked. "I know you are our friend," she said softly, "and especially mine. I know how much you care about my illness and how sad it makes you that I can't get better." "You'll get better," he replied. "Please don't talk like this." "Oh, doctor, I know what I feel." "I only wanted to ask one thing," she continued. "When I'm gone, please don't tell anyone the real reason for my death." "Don't talk like that," he said gently. The old man paused, bringing his handkerchief to his eyes. "She will only hear it from one person," Marcelina went on. "My mother. Oh, poor thing, how much she loves me, and how much pain she'll feel when she loses me. When you tell her, give her this note." Marcelina pulled from under her pillow a folded piece of paper, tied neatly with a purple ribbon. "Did you write this?" the doctor asked. "And when?" "Before I got sick," she replied. The old doctor took the note gently from her hands and placed it in his coat pocket. "But come now," he said, stepping closer. "What are these thoughts about dying? You're so young. You've only just begun to live. There are still hearts out there that can love you. Why leave this world so soon? There's still happiness waiting for you, the kind that matches your soul and your kindness. Listen, if you get better, well, I'll go away together. You love the countryside, don't you? Well then, the whole family will move there." "Enough, doctor," she said softly. "It's no use." From that moment on, Marcelina spoke very little. The next afternoon, Giulio and his wife came to visit her. She was worse. The whole family stood by her bedside. Her mother, bent over the head of the bed, cried quietly. As night fell, the final moments arrived. There was a sudden burst of sobbing in the room. But Marcelina, calm and peaceful, tried to comfort them all, offering the hope that she would pray for them from heaven. She asked to see the piano she used to play. But it was hard to make that happen, and she accepted it without complaint. Still, she didn't give up on seeing her sheet music. When they brought it to her, she handed the pages out to her sisters. "As for me," she said gently, "I'll be playing different songs in heaven." She also asked for some dried flowers she kept in a drawer, and she gave those out too, to everyone in the room. At 8 o'clock, she passed away. A month later, the old doctor, keeping the promise he had made to Marcelina, asked to speak privately with the grieving mother. "Do you know what killed Marcelina?" he asked. "It wasn't a fever. It was love." "Oh," she whispered. "It's true," he said. "Who was it?" The poor girl placed all her happiness in an impossible dream. But she didn't rebel against fate. She accepted it and died. "Who was it?" The mother asked. "Your son-in-law," he replied. "Is that true?" The poor woman cried out in shock. "It is," said the doctor. "I found out, and she confessed everything to me. You know how close I was to her. I did everything I could to keep her from falling into such feelings, but I arrived too late. The sentence had already been written. She had to love, grow ill, and go to heaven. What a love, and what a destiny!" The old man's eyes were full of tears. Marcelina's mother wept and sobbed so hard it broke the heart. When she finally calmed down a little, the doctor continued. The meeting she asked for during her final days was to give me a letter. She told me to hand it over only after her death. Here it is. The doctor took the paper from his pocket, the one Marcelina had given him, and handed it to the mother untouched. "Read it, doctor," she said. "This secret belongs only to us." The doctor read it aloud, his voice trembling. "I must die from this love. I feel it now. This was my first and last love. It could have been my life, but instead it became my death. Why? Because God willed it so. Didn't he see that it was me he was meant to love? Did some hidden instinct tell him I needed him to be happy? Foolish man. He went looking for love elsewhere, for someone just as sincere. Yes, but never as deep or as strong as mine. May God make him happy." Then came words filled with regret. I wrote something cruel. Why should I blame my sister? Can't she feel what I feel? If I suffer because I don't have the joy of being loved by him, wouldn't she also suffer if he had been mine? Wanting my happiness at the cost of hers, that's a bad feeling, one my mother never taught me. Let her be happy, and I will accept my fate. The letter stopped there. The doctor finished writing these words with tears streaming down his face. The mother was crying too. The secret they had both kept died with them. But one day, Marcelina's old mother passed away, and during the inventory of her belongings, the paper was found by Marcelina's brother-in-law. Giulio finally understood the reason behind his sister-in-law's death. He looked into a mirror, searching his own face for a trace of the charm that had moved Marcelina so deeply, and he said, "Poor girl." Then he lit a cigar and went to the theater. Tutun. Antonia history gives us one great example of disguise, a figure who sums up all others as the ultimate expression of deception. That man is Tiberius. Yet even he could not match the cunning of feminine Tiberiuses, who wore smiles and soft glances as weapons, eyes that could ruin the cleverest plans and soften the strongest wills. Antonia was one of these women. When I met her, she had been married for just 1 year. Her husband trusted her completely. They loved each other with the most passionate and burning love ever seen. It was as if they shared one soul in 2 bodies. If he stayed out late, Antonia didn't just wait up, she cried the whole time, aching with worry and sadness. And the moment he returned, there were no bitter arguments or pointless accusations. No, instead she would run into his arms, and peace was quickly restored. Where one went, the other followed. Why would they ever be apart, when their happiness came only from being together, living through each other's eyes, far from the world and its empty pleasures? This perfect bond between them gave the world a beautiful example of perfect love. They were the joy of families and the despair of unhappily married couples. Antonia was beautiful. She was 26 years old, in the full bloom of a strong, lasting beauty, the kind that time could not easily defeat. Oliveira, her husband, was the kind of man people called an Apollo. It was clear to anyone that this woman had to love this man and that this man had to love this woman. Moura was not the only guest at Oliveira's house, but he became the most important one. Others came too, old friends from childhood, some newer ones, even a few who had known Oliveira for less than a year, since his wedding day. Friendship, after all, is the best excuse anyone has ever found to get close to someone else's happiness. And in this case, it wasn't hard to understand why so many wanted to be near Oliveira. His wife, Antonia, was beautiful in a way that turned heads and made hearts beat faster. She smiled like sunlight through a window, warm, clear, and honest. Everyone who met her believed she was the perfect woman, the kind of wife every man dreamed of. Her love for Oliveira seemed unshakable, deep as the roots of an old tree. Most of their friends respected that love. Some admired it from afar. A few even envied it. But Moura saw something different. He didn't look at their happiness and feel distant admiration. He looked at it and thought, I could have that. Not just the house or the life, but her. We don't know exactly when Moura started to fall for Antonia. Maybe it was a slow thing, like fog rolling in on a quiet night. Or maybe it hit him suddenly, like thunder in summer. Either way, he decided, quietly and firmly, that he wanted to take part in the joy that belonged to his friend. Then came the rumor. No one knows who said it first. It began as a whisper, passed carefully between lips, always with a glance over the shoulder. At first, people didn't believe it. Antonia, with Moura, it seemed absurd. She was everything good and noble. And Moura, he was no match for her, not in looks, nor charm, nor spirit. Beside Oliveira, Moura looked like a tired actor trying to share the stage with a legend. But still, the rumor grew. People watched them more closely. A smile too long, a pause too soft, a shared silence, it all started to seem suspicious. Even those who doubted began to wonder. If they weren't lovers yet, how far were they from becoming one? Some felt angry. Others felt curious. A few, secretly pleased, thought, if the perfect woman can fall, then no one is truly safe from desire. And so, the story spread, quietly but surely. Eyes followed Antonia. Eyes followed Moura. Something had changed, though no one could say exactly what. One evening, a family from Oliveira's circle stopped by to invite them to the Lyric Theater. Antonia's eyes lit up. She wanted to go very much. She sang some Italian sensation. I can't recall the name. Oliveira, whether sick or simply bored, didn't want to go. The family who had invited them tried hard to convince him otherwise, but it was no use. He insisted on staying home. He wanted to stay. She wanted to go. After much back and forth, they finally reached a compromise. Antonia would go with her friends and return later that night. In the meantime, Oliveira would stay behind with a friend. But before everyone left, Antonia made one last attempt to change his mind. "Please come," she said. "But I don't want to," he replied. "Go ahead. I'll stay here and talk with." "If you don't come," she said, "then the whole thing is pointless for me. Please, just come." No, you go, he said. I'll go another time. Well then, I won't go either, she declared, sitting down firmly. Her friends cried out in unison. What? You're not going now. Come on, don't be silly. That's the last thing we need. Go, yes, Olivera said. Why should I go if you won't even enjoy yourself? Antonia stood up. All right, she said quietly. I'll go. Olivera asked abruptly, what number is the box? 20, second row, her friends answered. Antonia turned slightly pale. In that case, he said, you'll join us later, won't you? No, I told you I'm staying. Just tell me if you're coming. No. I'm not. It's decided. They all left for the Lyric Theater. Under the pretense of wanting to see the famous singer, I grabbed my hat and went to the Lyric too. Maura was already there. 3. Carolina, you mean to say you're getting married? That's right. To Mendonça. To Mendonça. That's impossible. You, Carolina Young, beautiful, marrying a man like him? A man with nothing to recommend him, nothing to inspire love. I'll grow fond of him. You don't love him. I can see that much. It's my duty. What can I do, Lucia? My father wants this. I must obey him. Poor Daddy thinks he's doing what's best for me. Mendonça's money seems like a guarantee of peace and happiness to him. How wrong he is. But you shouldn't agree to this. I'll talk to him myself. Lucia, Carolina whispered, her voice trembling slightly. It's useless. I don't even want it. Lucia frowned. But then what? Carolina looked away, her fingers twisting the fabric of her dress. Maybe there's another reason. I think my father owes something to Mendonça. And now he wants to marry me. My father didn't have the heart to say numero. Poor friend, Lucia said softly. Even without knowing the full story, readers already feel pity for Carolina, the future wife of Mendonça. She is yet another young woman forced into a marriage not of love, but of obligation either by family pressure or personal need. Carolina was set to marry Mendonça in just a few days, and that was what upset Lucia the most. Poor Carolina. Good Lucia. Carolina was 20 years old, tall, beautiful, elegant. She had the kind of beauty that draws attention, especially from men with wandering eyes. And yes, dear reader, Mendonça is exactly that kind of man. Worse still, he has the money to act on his desires. I could go further here. Let this idea grow into a long criticism of wealth and power. But I won't. No need to turn this into a bitter attack on money. Why even call it metal? Nor will I spend time describing Lucia's appearance. Let's just say the two friends were talking inside Carolina's bedroom. After Lucia expressed her sadness for Carolina's fate, silence filled the room for a moment. Carolina wiped a few tears. Then Lucia asked gently, "And what about him?" "Who?" "Fernando." "Oh, he must forgive me and forget me. That's all I can do for him. God didn't allow us to be happy." So be it. That's why I saw him looking sad in the other room. Sad? He knows nothing. It must be something else. Will Mendonça come today? He should. The two girls left the bedroom and walked into the living room. There, Mendonça was already speaking with Carolina's father. Fernando stood near a window, his back turned to the street. Carolina's aunt was chatting with Lucia's father. No one else was present. Everyone waited for tea time. When the girls entered, all eyes turned toward them. Carolina's father rose from his chair, went to greet them, and led them gently to the sofa. The room fell silent, the kind of quiet that settles when everyone senses something big is about to be said. The old man stood and announced Carolina's upcoming wedding to Mendonça. A soft cry broke the stillness from near the window, or at least it seemed like one. No one else heard it. Only Carolina did. Or maybe she just felt it. When she turned her head toward the window, Fernando was standing with his back to the room, his hands covering his face. Tea was served, but no one really drank it. Everyone sat stiffly, uncomfortable. It was clear that only the groom and Carolina's father truly supported this match. Whether others approved or not didn't matter anymore. The wedding would happen in 20 days. On the morning of her marriage, Carolina wrote to her friend Lucia, "I enter this marriage like walking into a tomb. I leave my dreams at the door and beg God not to take even those from me." As for Fernando, he never saw Carolina again after the night her engagement was revealed. On the eve of the wedding, he sent her a letter. I held on until today believing this was just a cruel illusion, a nightmare. But now I know it's real. Tell me, Carolina, have you forgotten everything? Our love, our promises, all the dreams we built together, all thrown away for an old fool who may be rich, but is nothing more than a keeper of gold and greed. You can imagine the rest. Any romantic novel of the time could fill in the blanks. None of it changed Carolina's fate. She was forced to read his accusations while preparing to give her hand in marriage with sorrow in her heart. Her only reply was short and final. Forget me. Fernando didn't attend the ceremony. Lucia did, and she watched the wedding as if it were a funeral. People whispered among themselves, what kind of strange love would make Carolina give up her youth, so full of life, to marry a man like him? No one could answer. Carolina sat quietly in the parlor of Mendonça's house on a cold winter morning. The air was sharp outside, and inside, the silence between her and Lucia felt just as cold. Donna Lucia, still unmarried, had come to visit for a few days, as she often did. Neither woman spoke of Mendonça. Carolina respected him first, and Lucia respected that respect. It was true that the first 6 months of marriage had been like 6 centuries of sorrow, pain, and despair for Carolina. From a distance, the sadness had seemed smaller, bearable even. But once she stepped fully into the empty, dry life she now lived, she could no longer hold back her tears. Crying was the only comfort left to her. A wall of iron stood between her and the happiness she had dreamed of as a young woman. No one knew about this quiet suffering, no one except Lucia, who guessed much and sometimes caught glimpses of Carolina's smaller pains from their early years together. As they sat talking, a letter arrived. It was signed by Fernando. Her old love wrote of how his heart had ached, the pain he had endured, the moments when death had nearly taken him. Through all those troubles, he said, he never lost the will to live as long as it meant loving her, even from afar. The letter was long and full of words, but it'll keep only its main message. Carolina read it with trembling hands and a confused heart. She stayed silent for a few minutes. Then, she tore the letter into tiny pieces. "Poor boy," she whispered. Lucia looked up. "What is it?" she asked gently. "A letter from Fernando," Carolina replied. Lucia didn't ask more. Carolina turned to the enslaved man who had brought the letter and asked how it had reached her. He told her a young boy had handed it to him at the gate. Lucia gave clear instructions. No more letters should be accepted if they came through that same boy. But the next day, another letter from Fernando arrived. This time, it had come through a different messenger. Fernando's letter was full of despair. He described his situation in the darkest terms and asked for just 2 minutes of Carolina's time. She hesitated before reading the letter again. It seemed so painful and sincere that, moved by what was left of her love for him, she decided to say yes. But then she paused once more, tore up the note, and promised herself she would do the same with any other letters that might come. For the next 5 days, 1 letter arrived each day. None of them received a reply. On the evening of the 4th day, Carolina was alone in her study when she saw a shadow appear at the garden window. It was Fernando. She gasped and stepped back. "Don't scream," he whispered softly. "Someone might hear. But you must leave. Please, go." "No," he said firmly. "I came here on purpose. I need to know if you truly don't love me anymore. If you've forgotten all our promises." "I shouldn't love you." "Shouldn't? What does duty have to do with us?" "I'll call for help. Leave now." Fernando jumped into the room. "No, you won't call anyone." She turned and ran toward the door, but he caught her by the arm. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "I love you so much." "Why do you keep running from me? Who's stopping us from being happy?" "Who?" "My husband." "You're a husband? What does he have to do with this?" At that moment, Carolina seemed to understand what Fernando was thinking. She covered her ears, unable to hear more. Just then, the door opened, and Lucia walked in. Fernando couldn't face her. He ran back to the window and jumped into the garden. Lucia had heard the last part of their conversation. She rushed to hug her friend and said, "Well done. Well done." A few days later, Carolina and her husband, Mendonça, left for a year-long trip. Before leaving, Carolina wrote Lucia a letter. "My dear Lucia, I am leaving you, but I must. I loved Fernando, and am not sure if I still do, even after the cowardly act he committed. But I cannot risk being part of something wrong. If my marriage is like a tomb, I still must honor it." Valadares looked out the carriage window as the funeral procession wound its way through the city streets. Behind the hearse, 50 carriages followed in silence. The mood was heavy, but only 2 men truly felt the loss, Valadares and Luis Patricio. The others were there only to please the grieving husband, José Durval. José, 36 years old, owned 5 buildings, and had more pride than sense. He walked tall, even today, as if the death of his wife were just another event in his busy life. Carlota had been only 28, taken in the full bloom of her beauty. She left behind 2 young children. Her friends Valadares and Patricio sat together, hearts broken, faces pale. After a long silence, Valadares finally spoke. Valadares said quietly to Patricio, "So, the poor lady is finally gone." Patricio sighed and replied, "Poor soul." Valadares added, "Taken too young. She was a loving mother to 2 beautiful children. Everyone adored her. May God forgive those responsible." Patricio nodded. "Only one man is to blame. As for her, she never wanted this." Valadares agreed. "You're right." Patricio asked, "Do you think he feels any guilt?" Valadares shook his head. "Not at all. He doesn't know the meaning of guilt. You don't know him like I do. He laughs at everything. To him, this was just an accident. Nothing more." This short conversation gives you a sense of what came before Carlota's death. And since those events are the reason for telling her story, let's go back. Carlota married at 22. No one could ever understand why she fell for José Dorval. Not when she was single, and certainly not after they married. To Carlota, he was a god. The thought of him being unfaithful would have killed her. And in a way, it did. Charlotte and her husband lived in perfect peace for a while. Not that he never gave her reasons to be upset, but his offenses were always hidden so well that she never found out. A year earlier, Hortensia B. Charlotte's closest friend, had left her own husband. People whispered it was due to his cheating, though no one could prove it. Still, Charlotte would have welcomed Hortensia either way, such was the depth of their friendship. Charlotte understood too well the pain a woman could feel when betrayed by her husband. That's why she opened her home and heart to Hortensia with joy and trust. It was like a rose opening its petals to a deadly insect. 6 months later, Charlotte realized the mistake she had made. But it was already too late. Hortensia had become the lover of José Dorval. When Charlotte finally discovered the truth that Hortensia had betrayed her in such a cruel way, she held back a scream. Her heart filled with jealousy, disgust, and shame. If anything could soften the pain, it was the cowardice of Hortensia's act. After all, Charlotte had given her a home, kindness, and love. How could she repay that with such betrayal? But what about her husband? Wasn't he just as guilty? In one painful moment, Charlotte saw the full ugliness of both their actions. And she decided she would end everything. The coldness she began to show Hortensia soon turned into open disgust and disdain. This change in behavior made Hortensia realize she could no longer pretend. But leaving without explanation would be like admitting guilt. So she stayed, pretending nothing had changed. Still, she couldn't ignore the shift in Charlotte's attitude. One day, she confronted her friend about the way she had been treated lately. That's when everything came to light. Charlotte, her voice trembling with anger, accused Hortensia directly of what she had done in her own home. Hortensia denied it all. But her denial sounded like a confession. Her voice lacked honesty, and her eyes avoided Charlotte's. There was nothing left to do. She had to leave. Even while still denying the accusations, Hortensia declared she would move out. "But that doesn't undo what's been done," Charlotte said, her lips trembling. "It doesn't fix anything. It was simply a matter of moving the stage for her madness." That scene shattered Carlota's health. The next morning, she woke up sick. Hortensia came to see her, but Carlota turned her face to the wall. Hortensia did not go back into the room, but she also did not leave the house. José Durval had made that clear. "What will people say?" he would ask. The poor woman had no choice but to suffer this humiliation too. The illness moved quickly, and in a way, mercifully. After 15 days, Carlota passed away. Readers have already witnessed her funeral. As for Hortensia, she continued living in José Durval's house until the first 6 months of mourning were over. At the end of that time, they got married in front of a large group of friends and others who called themselves friends. Assuming readers are curious about what happened after, I'll end here with a letter written 2 years after Carlota's death. It was from Valadares to El Patricio. "My friend, Corte, 12th of. I'm going to share some news with you that I think will make you as happy as it makes me, even though the Christian spirit tells us to feel sorry for other people's misfortunes. But there are certain misfortunes that look like punishment from heaven, and the soul feels satisfied when it sees a crime being paid back. Do you still remember poor Carlota Durval, who died of heartbreak after her husband's betrayal him and Hortensia? You know that Hortensia stayed in the widower's house, and that 6 months later, they got married in church, like two people blessed by heaven? Well, let me tell you, whoever gets involved with them should be ready to pay the price. Durval now regrets more than ever the choice he made. While the poor Carlota was gentle and harmless, like a dove without bitterness, Hortensia is like a fire-breathing dragon in a dress. She won't let her husband have any fun or freedom. There are demands of all kinds, demands for luxury, demands for status. Because Durval's fortune could not stand up to Hortensia's constant pressure, it slowly crumbled away. The sadness and stress aged poor José Durval far too quickly. She told me once that love was the only thing worth living for. But what does love mean, really? If it's betrayal and pain, then maybe she was right to say that. Hortensia betrayed her best friend first. That was bad enough. But then she went further. She betrayed her own husband. Yes, today, Hortensia has a lover. It's truly sad when something like this happens. And yet, I felt something strange inside me when I heard about her unfaithfulness. I actually smiled. I even rubbed my hands together in delight. I know it sounds cruel, maybe even disrespectful. It felt like Carlota's ashes should have shaken with joy under the earth. Forgive me, God, if that is a sin. I know I shouldn't feel that way. But you, my dear friend, always had sympathy for poor Carlota. I thought you would understand. I almost forgot to tell you the scene between Durval and his wife. A letter sent by H. the lover fell into José Durval's hands. I don't know how. Some terrible twist of fate. When he read it, he exploded with anger. But he wasn't strong enough to stay angry. 2 words from her, 2 smiles, and his rage turned cold. Since then, Durval walks around like a shadow. He doesn't talk much. He looks down all the time. He barely eats. He gets thinner every day. Poor man. In the end, I start to feel sorry for him. Yours truly, Valadares. Your letter reached me in Campos, where I still live. Thank you for telling me everything, my friend. You speak of Hortensia and Derville as if they were villains in some old story. She may have been wrong. He may have suffered more than he deserved. But we must not celebrate their pain. We must not believe that Carlota's soul rejoices somewhere far away. The truth is, those who do harm are often weak, not evil. They deserve pity, not revenge. Their punishment is already enough to make us feel compassion. Let me change the subject. You asked about my coffee plantations. I won't bore anyone with that detail. What matters is what happened next. Derville died soon after, heartbroken and alone. And Hortensia? She tried to find peace in religion. She gave up the world early, pretending to be older than she was, hoping that prayer and silence could erase the mistakes of her past. But can they ever?
Thank you for listening so far. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like our channel and click the bell to be notified whenever a new book is read. Have you heard of Machado de Assis? Machado de Assis, born in Rio de Janeiro in 1839, is considered one of the greatest writers in Brazilian literature and a master of psychological realism. He was a novelist, poet, playwright, and short story writer whose works explore the complexities of human behavior with irony, subtlety, and deep introspection. Among his most famous novels are Dom Casmurro, which questions truth and memory, and the posthumous memoirs of Brás Cubas, a satirical narrative told by a deceased man. Machado's literature often reflects the contradictions of Brazilian society, addressing issues like race, class, power, and identity in a sophisticated yet accessible style. Despite being born into poverty and facing racial prejudice, Machado de Assis rose to become the president of the Brazilian Academy of Letters and a symbol of literary excellence. His sharp wit and profound observations about society and the human soul make his works timeless and universally relevant. Today, he is recognized not only as a Brazilian icon, but also as a world-class author whose legacy continues to influence generations of writers and thinkers. Machado de Assis shows us that literature can be both elegant and critical, intimate and universal, humorous and profound. His stories remain as powerful and thought-provoking today as they were more than a century ago. Machado is a treasure of world literature, and through his voice, we discover the infinite layers of the human experience.